before we get started, perhaps everybody just introduce themselves and then we'll get into some spicy stuff. We should have some hot sauce here, actually.
Hello? Yes. Okay, you can hear me? Cool. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. My name is Aidan, and I am a co-founder and CEO of ChainSafe Systems, where we focus on protocols, building blockchains, and interoperability with the latest tool that we've built, basically empowering any individual to be able to access software API through lending markets.
I'm Alex. I'm responsible for Aurora, the EM-compatible solution on top of Near, and also developing Near Intense protocol, the protocol for communicating for multi-chain DEX and also for communication between AI agents in the future. Have been always focusing on the great UX with Aurora, and hopefully can have a meaningful contribution in this discussion.
And I'm Christina, I'm co-founder of Squid. We do many things cross-chain, interoperability, chain abstraction dev tools. Everything focused on being fast, easy, and cheap.
Yeah, and I'm Alexis. I work at Safe as a global partnerships manager. Many of you probably know Safe for the Safe wallet, which is used by a lot of DAOs and treasuries. So if you've been keeping up with the news that we've been putting out lately, we recently launched SafeNet, which is hoping to disrupt the chain interoperability space and bring the world's GDP on chain.
Thank you. So on the previous panel I was on earlier, it was postulated that interoperability is overrated and that none of it will matter in the long term. Discuss.
That's wrong. So I can ground, like if it is not obvious, I can tell something about it. Let's take a look at anything else that we do have already right now. Imagine that Hertzler servers are not interoperable with Google Cloud and not interoperable with AWS. There is no way how to communicate between the servers. What are we going to see the internet right now? Well, it's not going to be anything like what we see right now. And the only reason why we see internet as a uniform infrastructure right now is because there is a TCP/IP inside. There is an HTTP protocol, there are some additional protocols that all of these things are able to interop. And from my point of view, the thing that is important for blockchains is also all of the different pieces of infrastructure that we build right now, they should go down. We should not see it should all be seamless, and for this we need to figure out the interoperability standards between all the ecosystems.
I think maybe just to read into this a little bit more, maybe the notion that the interoperability stack, and specifically the settlement layer, as we're referring to it now, is currently seen as something that is rent-seeking and extracting a significant amount of value in a way that is not proportional to the value it's creating. And that's where things like generalized intents and things beyond that settlement layer are starting to provide a lot more value. And hopefully, this idea that the interoperability layer, being something that can extract so much value, will cease to exist as we know it, and we will move towards a world where it is seen as something akin to TCP/IP, where these are more public goods, and the way we abstract those things for end users is really where value creation is, and where we see a lot more value flow in general.
I think that, obviously I agree that it's wrong, but at the same time, interoperability comes at the cost, quite often at the cost of the user and the end user experience, right? And we have all these different standards because everyone wants to create their own standard, and no one can really agree. So whilst we, of course, we're building towards this interoperable future where we can harness all innovation from all these different areas, people are doing it at the cost of user experience, which is again a hindrance to adoption. So in that respect, I can agree that it's annoying, but not overrated.
So yeah, I mean, Christina says interoperability has costs, but fragmentation also has costs. I mean, when we think about what we've been trying to build here in the crypto space for the last 10 years, it's a more efficient, more advanced capital system that we're able to transact with each other, share value, have ownership and everything else. So if we can't build a system that's as interoperable as the traditional financial system, then what's the point? Why would we be attracting capital? It's going to just be hard to compete. We need to build a more interoperable world if we're going to bring the world on chain, basically.
And I definitely agree with that, right? Interoperability is how we are going to scale these chains and how we are going to get to a world where blockchains are just seen at any layer as just another VM for a developer to tap into. So I think interoperability as a concept is incredibly important. However, how we achieve interoperability for the end user and how they're interfacing with these different settlement layers is hopefully going to change.
Yeah, we also earlier talked about tribalism, which fits in nicely with this topic as well. Is tribalism the primary driver for all this fragmentation, or are there other forces at play? And what is the sort of what are the main barriers to making all this interoperable? It seems like we figured that out in Web 2, and 15 years in, we still haven't figured it out in crypto, and it seems like it's getting more fragmented. Are we going to have like peak fragmentation soon? I hope. And what's beyond peak fragmentation?
I think we see tribalism in crypto because everybody in crypto are investors. Investors in Facebook are very tribal to Facebook, and they kind of don't want people from X migrate to Facebook. You know, so that's a typical thing. Crypto just encountered this very early in its stage. Crypto was going up all because of the DeFi and the financial primitives and stuff like that. This is a proven use case for crypto, and because of this, there is a lack of users in crypto, but there is an abundance of investors, and that's why these investors are kind of tribal, right? So this contributes into fragmentation a lot. But I do believe that we, as a crypto community, we should not kind of miss the forest behind the trees. We are here, as Alexis say, to optimize the financial system of the world. Our true targets for disruption are outside of this community. So our true targets for disruption are outside of this community. They are sitting in governments, they're sitting in centralized banks and stuff like that. So if we work together, if we are thinking about making great user experience for everyone, then I think altogether we're going to collectively win.
I like to think about it like at two levels. So there's a social level, and I think crypto, maybe not so much anymore, but we're outsiders. Like we're the challengers, we're the opposition, like the underdog. And inherent in that culture is being tribal and being, finding your place and finding your community. And I think especially, layer one. Very, sorry. They put a lot of focus, and that's how a lot of them grew, right? Like during the layer one wars. And this culture is, it's inherent in crypto projects. It's like building your community and building this tribal nature and making people feel welcome and giving them, a digital home and, their very chronically online internet lives. And breaking that apart is then completely contradictory to that. And, we like to think it's what we say we're like everyone's friend because we touch everything. But it's really challenging because these cultural homes, they're really strong, and it's kind of what makes crypto really strong as well. It's not really an answer, but just highlighting the problem. And then on a product level, you know, a lot of the interoperability solutions, like there's still completely novel products and like novel ideas, and you got to make so many choices across so many levels that making all those decisions in a way that is uniform at every single layer requires like incredible cross communication and decision making at a coordination level that we're just not at. Like we're still early. So I think that's part of it as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of the tribalism that we see is coming from the fact that even though we've developed quite a bit, we're still quite a small space, and it's just basic economics, and we're all striving for the same economic resources. You have hundreds of different chains competing for the same resources, whether that's liquidity, developers, or users. And you want to do the most you can to create a pipe around your L1 or L2 or app or wherever you're building in order to attract those resources. It's not helped by the fact that you have VCs trying to like Alex said.
Everyone's hating on VCs.
I know, it seems to be a common theme lately, but it seems like a lot of the narrative is the fact that everyone's an investor and everyone has a financial incentive in their network succeeding, reinforcing these economic kind of agents causing tribalism.
I mean, I definitely think we're nowhere near peak fragmentation. The unfortunate reality is that we've barely gotten to a layer 3. And with base rollups and other things on the horizon, hopefully we take a step back towards standards. But we need people to understand that if we continue to rent seek, if we continue to try and think short term and not generationally, then this is going nowhere. And we will just continue to make the same 10 people rich. And you know, we'll be hopefully a step towards an open source peer-to-peer future, but this isn't it. So hopefully people understand that we need to think like people like Bill Gates, where you know they're thinking in decades, not years. And you know the Web 2 world has a better sense of this because IPO life cycles are so long. And so hopefully we're soon going to be at this place of kind of breaking back from that. Hopefully soon we will be bringing it back to a simpler time where there is just only so many things people want to develop on from a technically objective standpoint that lends itself to better standards and just better, I guess, just community, right, at the end of the day. Like you were saying, Christina, at the end, we are kind of such a small group of people, and yeah, we are just one community, and like Alex, you were saying, we have to remember who we're fighting against, and it's definitely not the people in this room.
Yeah, I think what you said there is interesting, and what it feels to me like is that people's time horizons are demonstrated in the different parts of the cycle. So at the bottom of the bear market, you'll see like the people with those long time horizons being sort of standing out from the crowd, building the technology, the products, the protocols that have that long-term focus. And in the parts of the cycle where things are more frothy, I don't know, it's like a chicken and egg thing. I don't know like what breeds what, but that's when you see the more short-term focused people coming into the space, and that also brings in like short-term liquidity, which then gets decimated at some point in the cycle. So I guess if we take it back to first principles, it's like crypto's cyclical nature breeds this dynamic.
But I don't think that's a crypto problem, right? I think cycles have existed in every industry,
right,
and everywhere, and it's just a matter of us trying to say, hey, maybe this growth at all costs based approach is not it, and instead we need to identify real value creation and ensure that people are able to be remunerated for the value they are creating within these networks, which really is the point.
So you're talking about L2s and how we barely hit L3. This is a question for all of you, but it sounds like you don't think that multiple, like adding more layers helps fragmentation. Do rollouts, app chains, L2s, like all of these different. I mean, if we think that there's going to be thousands of blockchains, does that help improve the fragmentation problem, or does it help exacerbate it? And like maybe there's something I'm missing here, but how does that help improve the fragmentation problem?
I mean, I definitely think it does when we leverage the standards of what's the latest and greatest instead of everyone trying to build infrastructure. And the big problem is not necessarily that, people haven't been able to build real-world applications. It's that everyone wants to be the person that built the infrastructure that everything's built on. And so we have all the tools out there. Scalability is a fallacy. It exists today. It has existed for a very long time. And we just need to realize that it requires people to actually build applications that people use, which we're starting to see more and more of. I think, stable coins, for example, are an incredible success that we should be super proud of as a community. They are changing lives. 10 years ago, I had no conception I had no idea that I would be so proud of a USD-based stablecoin as the pinnacle of our success a decade later. I'm shocked even verbalizing that, but it is what it is, and we need to be honest about where the wins are so that we can improve on them. But I definitely feel L2s and L3s will increase our ability to reduce fragmentation because the types of applications that will be built higher up the layers are going to be more application-based and not consistently more and more infrastructure. And so those people are going to need to touch each other. Right? Uber, Facebook, all of these things, they're not just these homogeneous single stack apps. They leverage so many different pieces of infrastructure to make their dreams a reality. And I think we need to identify that that's what we need people to look at our space as, is just a stack that they can leverage to build their dreams.
Not very exciting, but I totally agree. No hot sauce needed. I think, like you say, we have all the tools and the ability to build these, where these apps where the user, they don't know the chain or they don't know, any of the infrastructure that it actually touches. We're ready for it. And it's just about the creative and using all the beautiful design tools that we saw in the previous talk to come up with it and build it. And I think at the end of the day, all these different solutions they're a great thing because more or less they're all scaling solutions. So it's all, it's speaking
Sharing is caring.
It's speaking to an increased demand for what we do, right? And it's setting us up for creating the system that we've been talking about.
I think having all these different new chains and new technologies coming online definitely helps with scalability, definitely hurts when it comes to fragmentation. If you watch a guy from Athena's talk previously, I think what they're doing is a really good example. You need to build a really successful use case, an application that people need and want to use, and after that you can leverage to build a network of successful applications that your existing users will come and try and use. Similar to, I think we're out of time.
This?
Okay, so similar with Hyperliquid, if you create a really good product, users will come. I'd say we're incredibly neutral, but I don't know how many more general purpose L2s we want to be supporting in the near future. I think we've got enough. Let's just build really cool apps that people want to use. And then find a way to make them interoperable, common standards, everything like that.
So we've talked a lot about AI here at this conference, and like we had a pretty interesting conversation on the podcast yesterday, where you said something to the effect that when we have, basically AI doesn't care about UX, and that I think a lot of folks here and a lot of people who've been up on this stage have expressed that UX considerations go away when you have a unified interface, which might be voice, or even at some point thought. What are the implications of AI in the short term? UX, and how do we improve on the experience? I'm sorry.
This is one. So this is the fragmentation of microphones you see here, and we see that it is really painful. But from the standpoint of the implications of AI on the user experience, yeah, I do believe that we are going to end up with like a Twitter-style interface where you are able to put something inside and kind of say to your AI to give some particular information. And there will be another part of this interface is the feed. You know, the AI shaping the information that you just would like to consume that you don't yet know that you would like to consume, right? And everything is going to end up in this super apps, right? So, and there will be many of them, probably. Hopefully, I hope that it's not going to be only one company by Sam Altman, but there will be some other ones. I really hope that there will be user-owned AI, open source models that I'm going to be for sure knowing that they are not shaping my intent of buying some particular things. Yeah, and in terms of the infrastructure, especially blockchain infrastructure, yeah, it is going to go away, and agents are going to just figure out how to do stuff. And from that standpoint, funny enough, but AI is going to help resolve the interoperability and bad user experience of crypto. And again, this is my thinking about this.
I'm going to try and yeah, I mean, AI is great, and as long as it serves us, it makes our lives easier. And I think right now, at least in my experience, a lot of the time it takes me a lot of effort, especially within the creative side of things, to actually create a workflow that makes sense for me. And that will obviously change in the next couple of years. However, I think like crypto, right now, it doesn't necessarily serve most people to make their lives easier, right? Unless you're in a country that needs stable coins, unless you're someone looking to grow your net worth. There's not much there, let's be honest. And I think similarly for AI, we're at a kind of juncture where soon it will definitely serve a lot more people, but right now it's serving a very small group of people in a direct way. In an indirect way, obviously it's influencing our lives, it's doing incredible things behind the scenes, but in terms of when we will get to a place where every person knows they're using AI like they use their phone today and know they are on the internet, I'm excited to see what that looks like. But yeah, when you see certain things, and like you said, like personally, I'm not trying to support things that are stealing all of my IP and all of the things that I create on a daily basis without it contributing to a larger, greater good. And so, thankfully, going back to the panel, I think it was yesterday on Europe, thankfully places like the EU exist where they do fight against monopolies, and they make sure that things like USB-C is a part of our future. And we might not like them in certain capacities, but thankfully jurisdictions exist that are fighting for an anti-monopolistic future, but it's definitely not us in North America. I mean, do you like USB-C or do you want to continue using Lightning? Because I definitely don't want to use Lightning.
USB-C.
So you like the EU and the anti-monopolistic practices?
I do like USB-C, but I do also like free markets.
Sure.
And like the market already, the regulation was unnecessary because the market had already decided that USB-C was the thing.
But and not for us in North America where Apple is dominant, right? And so I think this notion that we live in a free market, and I'm from Canada, and Canada and the US, is just a fallacy. There is no free market anywhere in the world. There's oligopolies that control us. And maybe one day we can live in a free market. I think that would be possible. That idea, but let's be honest, that's an idea. That does not exist in any of the world. Like this notion is wonderful. Just turn it off and on. I think the idea that, yeah, we live in that world, or we ever lived in that world, doesn't take into account that, you know, my country that I live in, Canada, was started by a private company. At least the modern version of Canada was started by a private company that was state-backed. There's nothing free market about that colonialist empire that's existed since then. And hopefully, we can create a notion of free market creation and things of that nature, but that requires taking down oligopolies like OpenAI for that to be the case. Because right now, yeah, they control us.
Can I circle? Oh. Can I circle back to the question? Yeah. So I think with respect to AI, short term and medium term. So at the end of the day, a lot of, especially across like a lot of the cross-chain swap, for example, we've taken away like so many number of steps that a user has to do, right? Like at the end of the day, it's a UX optimization problem. And here it's like a very clear use case for agents to just do, you know, with like probably voice, that's low privacy concerns, but probably text, right? In like the first instance. And I think at like the user level, we'll see a lot of these solutions pop up. They just, you know, they come with their own set of UX problems and integration problems, especially, you know, as we've talked about, because well, fragmentation is complicated. I think in the long term, you know, it'll be interesting, right? Like you said, all infrastructure will become obsolete. Let's see. I think it's going to be chaotic, and hopefully it will look like something that we can't even imagine.
Yeah, I'll do a quick word on AI. As Sébastien knows, I'm an absolute AI maxi. So I think AI will definitely leapfrog a lot of the UX challenges that we're seeing today, especially around interoperability in crypto. I think within the next 6 months, you're going to see AI agents within wallets that control a unified balance. And let's say, for example, you're browsing the internet. You go on pump.fun, you have an AI agent running in your wallet in the background that converts your balance into Solana so you can use pump.fun. You then go to OpenSea, you want to make an NFT on Base. That agent understands the intent that you have to use your funds on the Base network and converts that and does that all for you. I think it's going to be a huge unlock. They're getting smarter by the day, and yeah, I can rattle on forever, but I'm super excited. I think AI will help us get a bunch of users and make everyone's life much simpler.
Should we keep that as the last word? I think it's a good word to end on. Thank you, everybody.
And thank you.